Well, welcome back to Steve Rob Reviews. Today we're going to do some electrical testing. I got my stuff all set up here, and it all has to do with my Dewalt 215,000 BTU diesel run heater. Okay, so a buddy of mine sent me a message, Sarge, and he said, Steve, I'd like to buy that for his place. He lives off grid and he's got a generator, and guess which one he's got? This one right here. Now he has a big one that he runs off his for his house, and he said it's too far to his shop to run a cable, and it's too expensive. But he'd like to get my heater because he was watching my videos on how I heat my whole shop here up to about 80 degrees in 10 minutes, then I shut it down and I turn on the electric. But what he wants to do is get this particular diesel heater and put it in his shop, and he wants to know if it'll run off of this. Ideally, wants to do is he wants to run it off his solar panel. He's got a solar panel and a couple of batteries, and he's thinking about getting an inverter to run this particular heater. And I said, you know what, you got to do some testing first, because I don't know what size inverter you need, and I don't even know if this would run it. So he really doesn't want to go out and spend all that money on buying a heater that he can't run. And what he does now is he's got a wood stove in his shop, and it takes a long time to heat up his shop when you're burning wood. Like, he's talking 4 and 5 hours to get it, you know, up to a nice temperature. So what are we going to do here today? We're going to test this DeWalt heater out. We're going to see what kind of amperage it draws. We're going to do a little bit of math. Now this one here says 1200 watts on it, but that's only maximum momentary. I have another one of these up at my camp. This one is a backup for my backup for my backup, and it's great. It's a two-stroke, and it says it'll run at 800 watts all out. But you know what? Even 1200 watts is 10 amps at 120 volts, and 800 watts is around 6.6 at 120 volts. I don't like running any generator full out. So we're going to get into the specs of this DeWalt heater. We're going to have a little bit of fun with electricity. So let's do some testing right now. Well, let's get started right here. Here's the heater, and I got the power cord running over here on top of my cabinet, all the way down underneath the cabinet, and it comes over to an outlet here on the wall. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the testing right here. Just unplug it from the wall, and that will be a good test. I have a 12-foot, I believe it's a 10 or a 12-foot 14-gauge extension cord, so I'd like to duplicate it using the exact same cord. So let's do some testing right now. Okay, let's get started here. We got the meter on the left is going to check the amperage, and the meter on the right is watching the voltage. Let's turn the heater on and let's see what we got. Well, them's the numbers, and you observe what I observed. To me, it looked like about 7.2 amps max draw at 120 volts. That's 864 watts. And if you were to actually take that particular amount of wattage and use a 12.6 volt battery on a power inverter, that's about 68 amps draw out of that battery. And the lowest setting I seen there was about 3.4, which is 408 watts. And that works out to DC 32 amps at 12.6. And the lowest reading I seen for the voltage was 117. Now that's pretty interesting, because what I'm going to show you here next is what's wrong. Okay, so let's wrap this up and explain exactly what's wrong here. What's wrong here is the manufacturer's specs. Manufacturer specs, I'll put a link at the back here of the vid on their specs and how they got their numbers. And their numbers are right, but they don't show peak current. So the peak current was 7.2 amps, 864 watts. And it doesn't run at 5.5 amps all the time. It has a lowest rating is 3.4 amps or 408 watts. Now they're saying that they've tested this at 115 volts, not 120, which does make a little bit of a difference. And so that's where they're getting their numbers from. Now this generator obviously will run it. I really can't see no problem running it. And as for the power inverter, what I'm going to recommend to Sarge is, like all the other power inverters I've ever seen, the amount of outlets on the front of an inverter is divided by the total wattage of the inverter. Now I do know one inverter I just finished testing from the same manufacturer. It's only got one receptacle on the front, and it's a 1500 watt inverter and has an idle current of about 1/4 amp an hour. And Sarge, that would be the ideal one for you. And send me a message and I'll send you the link to that inverter. But yeah, the inverters themselves, they're a whole different ball game than your utility. That 7.2 amp spike is so small and so fast that you would never notice it at all with your public utility. But an inverter and a generator, yes, I have noticed a difference, especially on inverters, more so than generator sets. And it does make a big difference. Now, when you think about it now, everybody that I've run into over the years mistakenly says a battery is 12 volts. 12 volts on a battery only has a state of charge of 25%. So when you're testing your numbers, start off with a fully charged battery, which is 12.6, and that's 100% charged. You don't want to run your battery down with your inverter so low that it damages your battery all the time. I recommend no more than 50% of a battery's use, because you're just going to damage the battery over time. So for Sarge, I would recommend a 1,000 watts should be safe for him. And of course out of one outlet, and he should be fine. And what he's planning on doing is using the diesel heater to heat up his garage while he puts the wood stove on, and at least he can go out there and work. He doesn't have to wait 5 hours. So I think that's pretty good. But you have to do testing first, especially with inverters and generators. So I hope you enjoyed this today, and hope you learned something, because I enjoy doing this kind of testing. I do it quite often, and I've learned over the times that the specs from the manufacturer are kind of leery at best at times, because most of the time they don't show the peak current. So I hope you like this. Subscribe if you haven't, and come back again with everybody else, and let's have some more fun, guys. Cheers.